In Fly, players try to score the most points by dropping the swatter card onto flies and collecting sets of symbols and colors. Set aside the sky card and the 2 fly swatters. Shuffle all 27 table cards face down to form a deck. Create the table by placing table cards next to one another in a 9x3 grid. Place one table card face up vertically, then place another card to the right of it so that the red checkered pattern continues across both cards. Continue placing table cards next to one another in a horizontal row until there are exactly 9 cards. Create row 2 by placing a card vertically directly below the first card in row 1. Continue placing cards next to one another until exactly 9 cards have been placed in row 2. Finally, create row 3 in the same way and continue placing the remaining cards from the deck. Next, close the lid on the fly box and tuck the bottom of the sky card slightly in the box where the tongue tucks into the back. Stand it up vertically close to the first card in row 1. The box should be able to hold the card up and stay standing. You may need to stabilize the box with another object or by placing a coin inside the box. The youngest player takes a swatter card and the game may begin. There are 25 total flies in the game. Each has a symbol and a color on its back. The goal is to collect table cards with flies on them by dropping the swatter and completely covering the flies. Players will also attempt to collect flies sharing a common symbol or color in order to make their flies worth points. In the end, the player with the most points wins the game. On a player's turn, he must drop the swatter card once from the minimum height established by the top of the sky card. A player must hold and drop the swatter with only one hand, which must be above the drop height minimum. Any flies that are completely covered by the swatter will allow the swatting player to remove the specific cards that contain the covered flies. If the swatter does not completely cover any flies, the swatting player collects no cards. Whatever the outcome, the swatting player immediately passes the swatter to the player to his left. Play continues with each player dropping the swatter once per turn until all but the 2 blank table cards are collected. Collecting cards from the table creates a card void, or an empty space. It is necessary to move cards in order to fill these voids. When 1 or more cards is collected, the next player must fill in the voids. First, slide cards from the same row toward the box. Second, move cards from the end of row 3, which is away from the box, and move them to the end of row 1, then to row 2 if needed, to replenish them to 9 cards. The game ends when the 2 blank table cards with no fly are the only remaining cards, as these cards cannot be collected. A player earns 1 point for each fly if he has at least 3 or more flies with the matching color or symbol. Although each fly has 2 characteristics, its maximum value is 1 point. The player with the highest score wins. In the case of a tie, the player with the most flies is the winner.